Hello, I'm Toycat, and if you're looking for any particular biome in your Minecraft world, just use /locate biome, or you can go to Chunkbase and get an exact copy of your seed with every single biome and its exact coordinates. However, this feels like saying that you could defeat the Wither by just switching to peaceful. It's easy advice and it is true, but it does feel like going against the spirit somewhat, and that's why in today's Ultimate Biome Guide, we've gone out to each of these 63 different Minecraft biomes that do exist, and I've brought them all back into one place to show you how you can find them using the in-game, in-universe exploration. And that is why today you're going to learn a lot more about how to explore your world, and indeed the fact that every biome has just 3 things that help you understand where the other biomes are going to be relative to it. There's temperature, there's precipitation, and there's the surrounding biomes, and for every one of these categories you can know exactly where you're going to find them, and this will be valid across both Bedrock and Java, except in the end where they're different. But for all of the other ones, this is how you find each of the biomes in Minecraft, and let's start with one of the most important, the desert. Everybody loves a desert. It's a flat place and it's got high temperature and also low precipitation, and this means that you can find it next to other biomes that are like that, such as the Badlands or the ocean biome. Interestingly enough, the ocean and the deserts are very closely found together, which means if you find an ocean, just go across it and you might find one of these. This makes it then useful for finding your Badlands or even your Savanna biome, because even though the Savanna biome doesn't spawn near an ocean, it will spawn quite frequently near the deserts and the Badlands, and so if you are looking for this place, you might be able to find it by going through the deserts. Again, it's the sort of thing that is useful to know about because Minecraft has biomes that tend not to spawn near each other, and where you're at in your, icy taiga might be nowhere near a savanna unless you're willing to cross an ocean. There's also the Savanna Plateau and the Windswept Savanna, which are sub-biomes. These are sort of mountainous, and the same thing is true for the Badlands, or the Mesa if you are pre-2015 Minecraft, but basically Badlands and the Wooded Badlands, or Eroded Badlands, are all similar to the regular Badlands. They generate in high temperate areas, such as next to a desert or next to a warm ocean. You can use this knowledge to your advantage because this is a biome in the deserty world which does have some trees if you find the hilly version of it. This is very valuable by itself, but even more valuable is the Eroded Badlands, which have these very rare hoodoos in them. They used to be called, there used to be a reference to a national park, the Mesa National Park in there, but it has been long since, or the Mesa Bryce, I believe, was reference to the Bryce National Park inside of Utah, but no longer is that the case. Now, you just need to know that it's the Eroded Badlands, and they're very cool looking structures, but they are one of the rarest biomes in Minecraft. You wouldn't ever need to come here except for the national beauty. Maybe you could argue like a national park, but since we've gone through 6 biomes now, let's do something we'll be doing for each 6 biomes in this video, and talking about a fun exploration fact, and that is to say right now, the most valuable thing for exploring your world is a locator map. This takes a compass and a map, combines them together, and you can use that to see exactly what's in your world, but if you don't get enough resolution, such as right now I can't see all of my biomes that I put in these little cubes, then what you can do is you can grab yourself a cartography table and simply put your map in there with some paper, and you'll expand the map out. It even says zoom out and clear. A lot of people don't know that you can do this, and it's very handy for seeing a larger area, in this case in the wrong direction though, but you can do this multiple times should you want to, and it's a very valuable thing if you ask me. And there finally, well, you know what, this one has decided to zoom on exactly the wrong area, which is beautiful, just like the jungle. This is considered to be a somewhat rare biome, has a high level of humidity for a hot biome, and therefore the biome can generate next to warmer biomes, but it is going to be fairly rare, and it's also possible to generate next to forests because they are temperate. It's sort of the in-between between the hot biomes and the forests, but it's not as common as the other biomes you might find in between there. And then there is one variant of the jungle. This is the bamboo forest. I think this is fairly self-explanatory, but it often spawns inside or near the edges of jungles. There is a bit of a place where the jungle meets a plains-ish biome, such as a hot one, and this is called the sparse jungle. A lot of people say this is Minecraft's rarest biome, but since the organization of 1.18, it hasn't been its own biome, it's just been a sub-biome. It means nothing to you, but it means that if you see one of these, it's really great because you can chop down all the wood and get this beautiful green grass. Speaking of beautiful green grass, you won't find that in the dark oak forest. The dark oak forest has a high level of humidity and can be found near birch forests, old growth taigas, as well as jungle biomes. Basically, forests tend to be found near forests, and so if you find one of these, the most common forest in the game, then you know you might be able to go through it or get a good view over it and find yourself another one. This is the most common forest to generate. It is just literally oak logs with the occasional birch one, and it used to be the only forest in the game until they added dark oak forests and indeed birch forests, which is exclusively a birchwood tree. These are always a breath of fresh air to find, but a part of me has to admit, like, it's cool to be in here and everything, but this is technically just a worse oak forest, because in the oak forest you find birch, birch, but in the Birch Forest, you don't find any oak. There is also an even rarer variant of this, the old growth Birch Forest, where you find these super tall trees. They're very beautiful, I guess we could say, but they are purely there for aesthetics and a little bit more wood, and if you hate leaving the tops of trees, you might hate this biome too. Next up, by the way, I should mention, so I said that the map is much more valuable, especially with a compass in it, than the compass by itself, but if you are exploring to find a very particular biome in your Minecraft world, you might be traveling thousands of blocks, and so weirdly, even though the compass sucks on short distances, let's say that your spawn is 3,000 blocks away from your your actual house, usually that sucks because your compass is going to take you nowhere nearby. All your compass does is point you directly towards your world origin, your spawn area. However, if you are going, say, 10,000 blocks away, or 50,000 blocks, or 100,000, getting lost would really suck, but being able to just point your compass back home is something that might be more valuable to you, and so something to keep in mind. Speaking of keeping things in mind, a rarer variant of the forest that can commonly be generated next to the plains biome or sunflower plains biome is this flower forest that you'll find right over here. My controller just died, but you know what else has just died? My desire to go into a flower forest. They are kind of beautiful places, but after you find them enough times, you're just like, oh, it's so cluttered. But if you are here for the first time, you get all of the dyes in very large quantities, all of the natural flower dyes, which is great if you're looking to complete a collection. There's also the Taiga biome. This is another type of forest that's very obvious when you come in here. I would say one of the most underlooked things are sweet berries. They mostly suck late game, but if you spawn in one of these, it's great food. And also, the taiga can be the gateway to the old growth pine taiga. This is very useful because they generate at very high humidities, similar to dark oak forests and jungles, and they often border swamps, taigas, and groves. Use that information wisely because a lot of people do like to come here specifically for the dog variant. Same is true for the old growth spruce taiga. If in case you're thinking to yourself, like, wait, did you just show the same biome twice? No, the old growth spruce taiga has trees that look like this. They're very wooded in their own way. Or I guess they're both 2x2 spruce trees. But this is one where, as you can see, it's the brown, but without that kind of being true. It's a much bigger version of the same trees. But then you might be saying, okay, now you're definitely making up. This is just a snowy version, but technically, Minecraft considers this to be different. It borders a regular taiga with a much lower temperature, and so if you're looking and you can't find a taiga in your world, try looking for a snowy plains, a grove, or a snowy beach, because you might just find one of these biomes. Then we've got the snowy plains. This is something which is, again, you'll know when you're in one of these because they're covered in snow, but even if you didn't spot that somehow, instead of raining here, it snows. This is true for any biome where you find snow on the ground for the most part, and you know what else you find on the ground? Plains. This is one of the standard biomes in Minecraft. No one is coming to this video looking for a plains unless you have somehow stepped out of a time capsule and you have the world's weirdest Minecraft spawn and haven't really explored it that much, but this is the most common variant of plains, and it's just found basically everywhere. It can neighbor forests, flower forests, savanna, deserts. It goes into everything. This is the standard. If you can't border a crazy biome, you'll border this one instead because it's right there in the middle of the chart of how all things coalesce. And before we go any further, I should give you another fact about exploration, and that is the fact that you can turn coordinates on to be on your screen at all times. This isn't true for the Java edition, where you have to press F3, but on Bedrock there is a show coordinates and show days played option. You can turn these on and off should you want to, and it's great because up in the top left you'll have coordinates at all time, which you could choose to note down. Speaking of noting things down, the Sunflower Plains is a variant of the Plains biome, and it most commonly neighbors cherry groves and the flower forest. It also has these sunflowers here, which are really fun by themselves because you can use them as a navigational tool. They will always point towards where the sun rises, which means you'll always know where east is if you have a sunflower, even in the Nether where there's no sun, to the best of my knowledge. The Ice Spikes biome is another very rare biome. This is a variant of the Snowy Plains, which is filled with these ice spikes. Ice spikes can neighbor plains, snowy taiga, snowy beaches, snowy slopes, and grove biomes. In other words, because they are, the mountains tend to be cold, you'll find those near these quite a bit. Speaking of those mountains, here is a Jagged Peaks. This is a mountain biome, which is one of the 3 mountain biomes, and it can neighbor the plains, the sunflower plains, all of the forests, as well as lots of these ground biomes. So if you're looking for these, I would say look for these biomes, but I'd also say you can just look up. If you see a mountain in the distance, then you're probably in the right place. There's also the Frozen Peaks, which is kind of like this, but instead of of being stony, it's kind of frozy. And instead of that, you could also find the Stony Peaks, which is even more so. This tends to be the warmest of the 3 peak biomes. It can generate, therefore, next to these if you want to. But it's great for finding ore in. You find iron, you find coal, you find emeralds. They're all very wonderful things. And yeah, this can be a very sought after biome, especially if you're getting your hands on calcite. Speaking of calcite, the Meadow. I guess we should also say, if you want to write down coordinates to know, if you store a biome and you really don't want to lose it, you could write down your coordinates anywhere you wanted to, but if you wanted to do so in-game, you could write down that you found a meadow at -94, 124, and then you would know forever where your meadows are. You could then store this somewhere in your world, but it's a great in-game lore way to... It's a great in-game way to create a bit of lore around your world, while also navigating just a bit better. So meadows are biomes that are very similar to plains, but just generate at higher Y levels. They can also have villages, just like plains, by the way. Also, we've got the Cherry Grove. This is very obvious when you're inside of it, but it's not obvious how you find it. The easiest way, in my opinion, is to look for meadows, because, find a high up plains biome, and eventually you'll find the Cherry Grove, because it is basically a sub-biome of that. Then we've got the regular grove, which is nothing like the Cherry Grove, because the wood isn't even made from cherries. It's similar to frozen tigers, but they generate on the side of mountain biomes. You might have thought earlier, like I said, there were 3 mountain biomes. That's because there are 2 side mountain biomes, the other of which is the snowy slopes, which you're going to want a pair of leather boots for, because you can find snowier snow here, also known as packed snow. This is similar to groves, but there's no trees. It's just occasional patches of this, and if you've never gone through it's one of the worst feelings in Minecraft if you don't have leather boots here. And yeah, it's kind of cool to me that they have a reason for leather boots, but it's not cool. I guess it's very cool to me, if you know what I'm saying. I feel so cool right now. Look how cool I'm looking. And if you've never seen frozen hearts in Minecraft, now you know how to get them. But yeah, if you want to find both of these, just go to a mountain and look on the side, because it will spawn there. It's also found on the side of plains, sunflower plains, and flower forests. Those can all be indicators that you're about to come here. Next up is the Windswept Hills. They're very uncommon, and they generate in hilly biomes, and they basically look like sad mountains. You would never have a reason to specifically seek this out, but if you wanted to, it borders these biomes. So next up, the Windswept Gravelly Hills. Imagine that biome, but someone said, let's add gravel. You would never want to seek it out, but if you wanted to, you could get some spruce trees here, I guess. Then, as we go into this next thing, I should mention that another useful exploration tip is that when you are exploring your Minecraft world, if you intend to keep it around for a long time, I'm always talking about long-term survivals, try exploring in the same direction, and that same direction seems logical to be a cardinal one, but if you go diagonally, because of the way that Minecraft works, it only takes you, Minecraft biomes are always across squares, and so if you go diagonally, you might find more biomes more quickly. Obviously, another useful tip is all of the things I'm saying about where biomes are, but if you just want to cover the greatest ground in the shortest distance, consider diagonally traveling across your Minecraft world. It's a pain to build things diagonally in terms of paths, but it is a great way to explore. Speaking of exploring, a sub-biome of the Windswept Hills is this one right here. As you can see, this is the Windswept Forest, and I guess I don't hate the look of this one entirely. The wetland biomes are where we're going to go next, though, because there are rivers. Everyone knows a river. Technically a Minecraft biome. You'd never specifically seek it out unless you really wanted... Oh, it's frozen up here. That's weird. You'd never specifically seek this one out, I wouldn't say. Or is it frozen, or is that barrier blocks that are waterlogged? I didn't know you could do that. You know what else I didn't know you could do? Commonly generates by the plains, sunflower plains, and warmer forests is what the river is. It also comes in a frozen variant, which is really cool, and it also borders the swamp quite often. The swamp is very, very filled with water, and sadly, it doesn't have its own unique type of tree, but it does have a unique way which it grows, with vines along the side, and also you can find mushrooms, lily pads, witch huts, and of course frogs here, so they're worth coming to, but they're such miserable places in my opinion. What I much prefer to the swamp is the mangrove swamp, which is a weird variant of it. This generates more often next to normal swamps, but also deserts. I mean, I say more often. It's much more likely that you find this next to deserts in just my personal experience, and so if you're looking for a mangrove swamp, weirdly I would say don't look for the swamp, look for the desert first. That has been more successful for me. But you know what else has been successful? The beach. This generates where ocean meets the land. You can't miss these. They're very common. They're just also very small. They're great for destroying if you're looking for a bit of sand. And speaking of destroying things, We're about to go through a lot of biomes in a row in real rapid fire, so the biggest tip I can give for exploring your world is that biomes can be hundreds or thousands of blocks long, so if you're in a biome that you know doesn't border one that you're looking for, say I'm in the snowy beach biome and I want a mangrove swamp, there is no way I'm getting from here to there without hundreds, most likely like 5,000 blocks, let's just make it up a number. And so if you want to travel 5,000 blocks, what's the best way? You go via the Nether. So make yourself a portal, it can be very easy, and yeah, especially if you're looking to conserve your world in terms of world size, this is a great way to do precisely that. And so here is my portal that will take me all the way to the desired biome. That's why it's a D for a portal. Speaking of D for a portal, there is the Stony Shore. It's a similar thing. It replaces beaches in areas with mountainous terrain. If you are somewhere that's quite mountainous, you don't get a regular beach or a snowy beach, you get one of these. Now we need to go through rapid fire non-land biomes because oceans generate in 10 different variants. The largest biome is the regular ocean. It covers about 28 to 29% of the overworld surface. If you're in an ocean and you're not sure which one it is, it's probably just generic ocean. But you can also find the deep ocean. Look how deep this one goes, my god. This is a variant of the ocean that gets up to 30 blocks deep. This has a real big effect on how caves generate, but how caves generate is actually quite useful for finding biomes. We'll come into that later. We've got the frozen ocean, which often borders biomes above ground, and it's basically a way for the ocean to freeze over. You sometimes get some icebergs here, which is pretty cool, and it's also a great way for exploring what's underneath there, because you can still find ocean monuments, but also it's great for making boats and going super fast, let's be honest. So yeah, the frozen, there's the deep frozen ocean, which is when it's frozen, but it goes really, really deep, down to 30 blocks. Every single ocean biome has a deep variant, and so the cold ocean often spawns with cold biomes, and you'll know that you're in a cold ocean if there's gravel at the bottom and there's not a lot else going on, and you know you're in a deep cold ocean if there's gravel at the bottom, but it's really, really, really deep down. Next up here, we've got the lukewarm ocean. It's so funny to me that they decided to add this. It's next to biomes that are slightly higher temperature, but not quite yet warm. When the temperature isn't high enough for a warm ocean, you get the lukewarm ocean. What is the actual difference to you between a deep lukewarm ocean and a regular lukewarm ocean and the full warm oceans? Realistically, the only one is like coral and the certain things you'll find there. But yeah, this is a rare and useful biome. It was actually removed from Minecraft 1.18's development, perhaps because of that exact same reason, but you might have these in your Minecraft world, and indeed, I think it's such a silly thing that you can have, but yeah, you still can have warm oceans, you still can have lukewarm oceans, just this is one of those weird spots. Speaking of weird spots, the Legacy Frozen Ocean is something you might also have in your world. What is this for? Well, it's like a frozen ocean, but without icebergs. This is something that was deemed to be a bit boring, and so you might have this as a Legacy feature, but almost certainly not. Speaking of things you almost certainly won't have, mushroom biomes. The mushroom fields are one of the most beautiful biomes in Minecraft, but they are rare. How do you find these, I guess, is a question you might have been asking since the start of the video, because I've tried to show you every single biome to help you understand how they link together, and hopefully you've gotten that. But how do you find the mushroom fields? It sucks because the only real way is to say, yeah, if you find a deep ocean, this might be bordering it. The only tip I can really give beyond that is when you're in an ocean that looks endless, turn up your render distance as high as it can go. This is 32 chunks on Java, and if you're on PC, it's up to Bedrock, that is. You can turn your render distance up to 96 chunks, and this will give you a much better view. Render distance is OP, I really can't overstate that enough, and if you are looking for the mushroom fields, besides traveling through the Nether and hoping for the best, honestly, you've just got to have a high render distance and a lot of time to your hand. Speaking of things you can find, cave biomes. Most people think the cave biomes are unlinked from the surface ones, but as we'll all know, the deep dark spawns most likely below mountains, but so too do the dripstone caves try to spawn never below ocean biomes. There are very few dripstone caves that generate in the ocean biomes because they try to spawn underground, specifically where continentalness is high. That sounds weird, but that is to say, the further away you are from ocean, the higher a chance you have of being in one of these. Which means if you're underground and want to know what biome you're potentially below, if you find one of these, probably not an ocean, so you can dig straight up. You can do the reverse of Minecraft's worst advice. Lush caves also generate at any Y level, but they specifically generate under biomes with high humidity, such as dark oak forests, jungles, mangrove swamps, taigas, and so if you find one of these, you know you're probably below one of these. That is a very useful fact in my opinion, just like how the deep dark can be found below most mountain biomes generally speaking. You can sometimes find it in weird places, but if you're looking for it, that's where you'll often find it. And so yeah, if you're trying to avoid the warden, don't dig below a mountain. Although digging below a mountain is usually a weird thing to do anyway, so this is a biome you usually have to seek out, but again, something to keep your eye on. Speaking of keeping your eyes on, Nether Biomes, there are 5 Nether Biomes, and you could read all these signs individually if you really wanted to, but the simple thing that we can summarize here is that every single biome in Minecraft's Nether is found equally likely with no real preference as to where they generate. So, are you looking for a Nether Biome? Just go looking. There's nothing really that you can do, but since there's only 5 of them, it usually doesn't take long to find each of them in multiple duplicates, and so something useful to note is that the end is kind of similar on Java. On Bedrock, there is one end biome. There is just a single biome for the entire generation, and it's the exact same area where the end battle is fought, with this lovely bedrock column and the portal and the columns of obsidian near it. However, on Java, there are also small end islands. Then there are end midlands. You know, they're named, the Midlands isn't a place that I would ever consider looking for, but, let's be honest, if you're in Minecraft, maybe you're desperate, you could go to some of these, but there's also the End Highlands, and then finally, the End Barrens. These barrens are the very edge of the End Island. Realistically, you're never looking for these, but I feel like if I'm making a full, complete guide, I can't leave them out, just like how I also can't leave out the fact that as I record this video, Minecraft is working on adding a new biome to the game. How do you find the Pale Garden? Well, the Pale Garden biome is part of the Woodland biome section, and you'll find it as a sub-biome of the Dark Oak Forest. That is to say that if you want to find this with all of your Pale Oak trees, this is the best we could do, by the way, don't ask what they look like underneath there, but if you want to find this biome in particular, then all you've got to do is find a Dark Oak Forest and look for the elevated areas. So, maybe if you have a spyglass, or realistically if you have a high render distance and you're willing to look around, finding a peaky version of the Dark Oak Forest will probably get you right here. Speaking of getting you right here, I have finally gotten you right here to the end of this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed this one. Thank you very much again to Chris for producing this and for getting all of this done. It is one of the craziest tasks that you can do in Minecraft to try and grab all of the biomes, but to try and learn about all of them and see where they all generate and what's actually going on with them, it's something that is even crazier, and without his help, I wouldn't have been able to talk to you about all of these things. But speaking of things I wouldn't be able to help you with, I want to say before we go here that the Ultimate Guide is one of my favorite things I do on this channel. A lot of people have been loving learning about Minecraft again through this series, or indeed learning for the very first time, and if you want to see more of this, just know the series is going on a short break until December, when the Pale Garden does release, and that is because we're going to be doing the big update questions. It's a day, basically of ultimate guides, multiple ultimate guides in a single day. It's one of the craziest days of the year usually, and it looks like this year gets 2 because of the Pale Garden winter drop. I'm looking forward to it, but just keep in mind that we'll be taking a short break to prepare for that. Speaking of things we're going to prepare for, I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you want to learn more about Minecraft, because I'll see you in the next one. Wait, I forgot. Where was the meadow from earlier? There it was. Perfect. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.